I have been very, very critical of attendance at the Oakland Coliseum. Is today the day I face the music? Today on Locked On A's.
You are Locked On A's, your daily podcast on the Athletics, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On A's, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, Booney, one name, all passion, lifelong A's fan. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. So do me a favor and smash that subscribe button wherever you are following the show. And if you do reside in Nevada, we are on Silver State Sports and Entertainment, Digital Channel 5.2, and Cox Cable Channel 77. Today's episode is brought to you in part by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. Today on Locked On A's, I welcome special guests Salty Tom and Aaron Cameron for a brutally honest discussion about the A's attendance at the Coliseum and what really drove fans away. For years, I've said one thing loud and proud: winning fixes everything. But after sitting down with Salty Tom and Aaron, I might finally have to eat those words, because if winning was enough, the Coliseum would have been full every single summer. If winning was enough, Jason Giambi jerseys would still hang in green and gold, and Barry Bonds wouldn't have stolen the spotlight across the bay. But here's the harsh truth. While the A's were stacking up 90-win seasons, the fans were quietly checking out, not because they didn't care, but because the team stopped caring about them. The guys break down how the front office sold Moneyball as a revolution when it was really a Band-Aid over a budget. Aaron Cameron points out how fans crave faces, not formulas. And Salty Tom reminds us that the moment Barry Bonds started flexing in a brand new ballpark, the A's were left selling stats instead of stars. By the end of the conversation, I had to admit it. Maybe I have been too narrow-minded. Maybe I have been looking at attendance through the wrong lens. This isn't just a story about the A's losing fans. It's about a franchise that forgot how to make them feel seen. And the realization, it hits harder than any loss in the standings. And what goes through your head when you think about the guys that we didn't retain? Guys such as Damon, guys such as Giambi, Tejada, etc.
Yeah, I remember those years quite fondly. I remember Giambi leading the way. I remember the big three. And, I remember Giambi saying, I remember they won the division in 2000. Giambi saying, hey, let's extend this contract now. Let's get it done. I was pretty heartbroken when he signed in New York. And I was booing super loud when he came back to the Coliseum. But however, having said that, though, they still had a bunch of stars around, a bunch of stars on the team. We still had Tejada and Chavez and the big three and whatnot. And so, they plugged a couple guys in, the Hatterbergs of the world, and they're still competitive. So the fact that there's still a 100-win team, it didn't hurt as much. However, imagine if they had just kept, as much as I love Moneyball, if they had kept Johnny Damon and kept Jason Giambi, they would have been a dynasty. And they'd be winning 104, 105 games, and we would have at least one World Series title. So at the time, it didn't hit me as hard because they're still winning games. But looking back, it did hurt to lose those superstars.
Aaron, what do you got through those years?
I think that there's a great point that Tom is making. The A's and Billy Beane really tried to sell the idea that it was all about the name on the front of the jersey as opposed to the back of the jersey. And I don't know if that was necessarily successful. You need, whether you're talking about a Jason Giambi or a Johnny Damon or Miguel Tejada, fans want to
star power.
they want to latch on to players. They want to buy the jerseys. They want to, hook their anchor to these guys that are theoretically going to be with the team forever and ever. And Billy Beane and Moneyball was about, exploiting, these unexplored or undervalued areas in baseball. And there was, by definition, a lot of turnover, a lot of transition. And while it was successful in the box scores, certainly, you mentioned their winning records from 99 through 2006, it's tough on the fans. The fans love the players. The fans attach to the players. They relate to the players. So when there's this constant churn and constant turnover, even with the winning records, it's hard for the fans to get invested. It's hard for the fans to feel that loyalty, because what they're seeing is an organization, is a team that is not extending that same loyalty back to them. Now, again, to be clear, tremendously successful, right? Winning records, division titles, playoff appearances, and that's great. But as counterintuitive as it sounds, the fact that there's this different cast of characters seemingly every year, man, it wears on a fan base. And the A's, put out their winning teams, but it was a very interesting period where it was a lot of transition, a lot of guys kind of mixing and matching here, there, 1 minute, gone the next. And from the perspective of the fan base, I can see how it was a challenging time, even with the winning.
NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Let's say a winning fan base draws about 30 to 35,000 fans a game on average. Less, let's say 25 to 30, whatever it may be. You're going to have your 10 to 15,000 loyal fans, right? Just hardcore fans. And then you're going to have your other 20,000 that are more for family oriented, want to be there for a nice ballpark like Pac Bell is in San Francisco. Do you believe for about 65% of fans, and I'm not talking just A's fans, I'm talking about fans in general, is who you have on your roster more important than the winning?
Yeah. If I could, I want to agree with Aaron and also answer this question. It's not enough to just win games, but we're 8 miles away from this brand new pearl of a ballpark,
Sure.
Pac-Bell Park, and they've got Barry Bonds breaking records.
Yeah.
And when you're watching Sports Center, they're talking about the Giants and Barry Bonds and not the A's, even though the A's were winning just as much. Even though the A's had a good record, I always felt like they started slow and it took this miraculous effort. Like they're somehow always an underdog all the time. And so the end result looked great. But still, when it came, and the Giants had this great, the PR was fantastic. You had Bonds hitting home runs. They're retaining their free agents. The ballpark was amazing. And so even though the A's were extremely competitive, just the PR wasn't there. Aaron brought up a good point. Even though they were winning, there'd still be some angst with players leaving and then kind of ducking out of playoff games relatively early. And so
Yeah, you could make. I mean, those games were tough to win. I don't know if they sign anybody in the offseason. Like, who are you going to pick in the offseason as a free agent that's going to hit Verlander, if you know what I mean? But I get what your point. And Aaron, I mean, I think there's two type of products when you're talking about with regard to a sports team. You have the product on the field, and then you have the product as far as the A's as a whole. And I always felt the product as a whole, as far as what represented the A's, I never felt good about. I still don't feel good about it today when I walk into Sacramento. You always feel like you're getting penny pinched. You never feel good about yourself as the customer. Never has. Since the Coliseum days, I go as far back as I could remember. I never felt good about being a customer, but every experience is different for the individual. For me, that was about 5 to 10% of it, right? 90% was on the field. And for me, that product and what they brought summer after summer was unbelievable. Is there two type of different products, Aaron? And is that the big turnoff with regard to the A's and the public, which caused the attendance to drop significantly, even though winning was high?
Well, don't discount Tom's point. It's an absolutely excellent point on the slow starts. 2001, they started 8-18. Highlighted, I'm sure diehard hardcore A's fans remember, Sunday night game, ESPN, I think it was against the Rangers, and Jeremy Giambi was at the plate after the previous batter had walked on 4 pitches. The A's were down something like 4 or 5 runs at the bottom of the 9th, and they were building this rally. They might have even brought it to within 1 run, and Jeremy swings at the first pitch and grounds it to a 1-2-3 double play to end the game. Yeah. Pitcher, catcher, first base to end the game. 2002, you might remember, they had a really wonky start, and they acquired a couple of guys, and they had a really off-kilter road trip, and Bean just cleaned house. He sent Jeremy Giambi off to Boston or Philadelphia or somewhere, and John Mabry came over, and it was just one of those things where it was like the A's always seemed to find that rake to step on, and it was even when they were super loaded and super talented, they'd have these stretches during the regular season where they would just not look like a major league team. They figured it out, but it was just so confounding as a fan, because you're like, this is supposed to be a good team. This is supposed to be a team that is going to contend. And those slow starts, I'm not going to say that they contributed to the attendance. I mean, there's a lot of reasons. It's a very complicated thing, but from the standpoint of a fan watching, they can be tremendously frustrating. And it was one of those things where they always kind of righted the ship, but man, getting there was just bang your head against the wall, frustrating sometimes. And for a fan base that had lost a lot of casual fans from the late 80s, early 90s. Tom mentioned the opening of Pac-Bell Park, and Bonds doing all of his things that you mentioned. It was just this perfect storm of bad timing and bad luck for the A's. They figured it out during that run, but man, that margin of error was razor thin for them, and sometimes they just kept tripping over themselves, and sometimes in this increasingly short attention span world that we live in, for the fan base, it was just kind of like, call me in October. And that's a lot of the times what it ended up being. Show no semblance of direction on the field. I don't know what the fans are there to latch on to, because I was confused, and I've been following this team since 1981.
Salty?
Gosh, all these great points. So the team was never bad enough where it was considered a rebuild. We all can't stand the Houston Astros, but you know what? They tanked and they became a dynasty because they did a true rebuild. Yeah, the A's, I mean, they're always somewhere around 75 wins, up to 500. And so even when we're sort of, at the, sort of
for a 4-year stretch, right? Always during that time, right?
Exactly. But even when we're in that competitive window, we weren't like a 100-win team. We were like a 90-win team, 95-win team.
This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement of this sports season, whether you are following the NFL, NBA, or both. There's no better time to jump in on the action. If you haven't tried yet, Prize Picks is the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats, and if you get them right, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup, and you can play anywhere Prize Picks operates, including California, Texas, and Georgia. I've been using Prize Picks during both football Sundays and NBA tip-offs. It keeps every game exciting. I like picking my favorite players like Mahomes and Steph Curry to see how my predictions play out. The new Stacks feature is a game changer. You can now pick more on Steph's points, threes, and assists in the same lineup. Plus, if one of your players leaves early with an injury, the injury reboot saves my lineup from a loss. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Ownership's terrible. It's been terrible. It's been bad, right? Everything they do. If they don't want to spend because attendance is down and that's what controls, if it doesn't want to invest in the team, fine, whatever. That's one thing. The second thing is they don't even reinvest in the community. They don't do anything to make the fan feel good about coming to the game. There is nothing that this franchise has done for the fan, okay? And you could almost make an argument that winning has been a little bit of a lightning in a bottle, right? To a certain point. We've drafted the right guys. We've gotten the guys in the right spot, etc.
For the three of us and for the folks listening, you'd need to have, that kind of buy-in, that kind of loyalty, or else the fans aren't going to show up. And I, for better or for worse, right or wrong, I feel that that's the situation that's kind of unfolded in Oakland over the last, 10, 20, 30 years.
And you could make the argument, Salty Tom, that if you could even, the Giants weren't much better in Candlestick. Candlestick was a worse shape than the Coliseum. If the A's built their stadium before the Giants, the Giants could be in the same situation the A's are today if it kind of flip-flop, right? It was the same type of deal almost. You had two successful franchises making the most with it, playing in 2 awful ballparks. Giants struck first. They built a stadium. They got bonds. They got the star power, and they drew, and the rest is history. Would you kind of say that's on the right track if the A's did things before?
Oh, there's no question. So look at 2 major events that happened. The Giants got Pac-Bell Park built in 2000, and the Raiders destroyed our beautiful Coliseum in 95. So you combine those together. So let's go back to 1992, 93. The Giants are still kind of wasting away at Candlestick and or 3Com, whatever event you got called. And the A's were drawing bigger crowds. And we still had a nice ballpark. The classic Coliseum, I thought, was just as good as maybe like Dodger Stadium.
It was a beautiful ballpark.
We had the ice plants. We had the nice view of the Oakland Hills. And everyone enjoyed the A's. So then the Raiders come in. And so then I remember during the middle of the season, we have construction going on. Our beautiful ballpark becomes more of a facility. The Giants, instead of going to Tampa Bay, now they're building a brand new ballpark in San Francisco. And so, that really changes everything. So, just imagine for a moment, what if Pac-Bell Park didn't get built? What if they're still playing in some kind of renovated 3Com park today, right? And what if the Raiders never came and the Coliseum wasn't nearly as bad? And then what if we didn't have all these issues with territorial rights? Everything would be completely different. And so you really can't ignore the 2 big elephants in the room, which is the Raiders ruining our Coliseum. And then, of course, we're only 8 miles away from this palace of a ballpark. And you're right. There's like 10,000 fans that'll always show up. But when it comes to the Bay Area, they're so close together, and the Giants start winning. You got the ballpark. The casual fan is going to cross the Bay Bridge and go to Pac-Bell Park.
I agree with a lot of what both of you guys are saying. I think my thinking with regard to attendance and correlating with that with winning in a lot of ways is short-sighted, short thinking. But here's a question, Aaron. With that being said, now we know what the problem is, right? Ownership, management. It's been like that for 40 years. What do we do? What do we do if baseball MLB is not going to force a sale? And really, I don't know if there's any basis for them to do so. If you look deep into it, I mean, obviously we can make a lot of reasons for it, but anything that's concrete. What do we do at the same time? Like I said, going back to the same question, ownership has never treated the A's fans great, the East Bay fans great. That's gone on forever. Now they're gone. And now there's an absolute outrage about it, more than I would ever expect. I was angry. I was upset. I didn't expect this much outrage considering the history of the A's, the way the fan has been treated. And I don't feel like anything would have changed unless ownership changed.
Yeah, I mean, Booney, the answer to your question is we make a choice as fans. Are we going to stay on this train or are we going to get off at the next stop? And, this idea, I've long been a proponent that diehard fandom is dumb. And it's just, you love something more than it will ever love you back.
Right.
So it's like I've reached a point in my life where the A's are a wonderful 6, 7, 8 month diversion, escapism. I love watching these guys do their thing. I root for the players fervently, but I will never let these guys change my mood. Win or lose,
sure.
I have to go to work the next day.
Yeah.
So in answer to your question, as fans, is what we can do if ownership is making you feel this miserable, you can leave. And I don't say that in a pejorative sense. I don't say that in a dismissive sense.
Yeah, I got you.
It's just, take care, be your own advocate, take care of your mental and emotional health. It's sports, man.
Yeah,
and
you're right.
And I'm not trying to dismiss anybody's emotions. I was there at the last game in September of 2024 at the Coliseum. I cried with 46,000 other people at that last pitch. I get it. I do. But I've chosen personally to stick around because I love these players. I root for these players. They do things that human beings cannot do. And these 26 guys can do them. So I'm here and I'm going to stick around. And that's cool. And if you're not, that's also cool. Yeah. So I don't want to make this sound terribly defeatist, Booney. I don't want to make this sound like I'm setting my sword down and giving up. But it's sports. And as fans, if you can't, the universal you, if you can't find joy in Denzel Clark defying gravity or Nick Kurtz hitting 4 home runs in Houston in a single game, that's fine. I find joy in that. But if you can't, then leave. And again, I'm not saying that in like, good riddance, nothing like that. I get it. But for me, this is all I've known since I was 7 years old, dude. 1981, Billy Ball, those pitchers who threw nothing but complete games, Ricky Henderson, Dwayne Murphy, Tony Armas, Judy Babbitt. This is what I've known. So it's like I'm here. So if Mike you want to come with this ride, 2026, which is set up to be a potential contending year and beyond, great. But if you're not, also that's fine. I get it. So I'm. This is a judgment-free podcast, brother. I get it, and I'm not going to cast judgment on anyone else.
I love it. Salty, what do you got?
Yeah, my goodness, I think you nailed every point. For me personally, I made a decision to stay with the team. I have never met John Fisher. I never will meet John Fisher.
Right.
I am not going to give John Fisher the power to actually affect my life. The A's are too important to me. I remember being 10 years old in '89, going to my first A's game, looking at those, those ice plants, hearing the name Honeycutt, thinking that sounds funny, and just, I mean, it's just such a part of my childhood, and and so because of that, I'm going to stick with the team. And everything in life is a trade-off. Obviously, in a perfect world, I wish they would have built in Fremont or Oakland 20 years ago before the Giants won all these rings. If they're in Fremont, they get all the San Jose sponsorships. They're still in Alameda County. If they build in Oakland, we're actually rooted there. But unfortunately, that's not life. And so I'm trying to find silver linings where I can find them. I'm not going to ditch the team. They're too important to me. And so I'm grateful they're in Vegas. They're going to Vegas and not Nashville. I'm grateful we're keeping the green and gold and not turning into the whatever, becoming the
the Nationals, like the Expos, right?
Right. I feel so bad for the Expos, right? Because really their team became a whole different identity.
Yeah, that's scary.
Yeah, and so at least I get to wear an A's hat. And I'll go to a couple weekends. I can't go, obviously to a ton of games. I'll go to a couple weekends a year. And there are some benefits. They should be able to sign free agents better. They'll probably, I'm guessing they'll be the top baseball team in Vegas. Don't have to play second fiddle to the Giants anymore. So while overall it's a really crappy net negative, there are some positives to draw from it. And I also find a lot of joy in the journey, not the destination. I do have fun when they win a lot of games and they go to the playoffs, but I also have fun just calling into A's Talk, to going on to Locked On A's with you. And then I like having something to look forward to every day. Every day I'm like, is it 7 o'clock yet? Or is it, 4 o'clock, because we're playing on the East Coast yet? And that's brought me so much joy that I'm not going to let John Fisher steal that from me. And I just feel bad for the fans where he lives rent-free in their heads. He's not worth it. He's just some stupid, greedy billionaire. Stop reading into it so much and live your best life.
Yeah. No, I agree with both of you guys. I think you guys were both 1,000% on the money, and thank you both. I think what you guys gave me was perspective. So for that, I thank you both, and I think we'll end it on that. Thank you for making Locked On A's your first listen every day. For your second listen, find the all-night Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast.